All right, here's a good question. Um, and when you read it, if it seems like they gave you too much information, and not always, but often with stoichiometry questions, if it sounds like they gave you too much information, then what it is, it's a limiting reagent question. And let me show you how to go through that. Okay, so first we need a chemical reaction. So calcium metal reacts with oxygen gas in the air to produce calcium oxide. And it's probably a solid. Okay, to balance a chemical reaction, I need 2 oxygens, so I put a 2 there, and that means I need 2 calciums over here. Okay, I've got a balanced chemical equation. Let's write down what they're giving us. So there's 6.84 moles of calcium reacting with 4 moles of oxygen gas, and they're saying how many moles of calcium oxide are produced. You see how we have too much information? Like we have information on calcium and oxygen. So which one of those am I going to take as my given? Is it the calcium or the oxygen? And the asked is over here. Nice that if we're looking at our pathway, what we have to do, we're not starting at a solid, liquid, or gas, and we're also not finishing there. All we have to do is that one step to get over moles. Okay, but now I've got to figure out which of these calcium or the oxygen do I use. I'm just going to use one of them, and the other one will be excess, so there'll be too much of it. And in some of the chemical reactions or some of the questions you've seen, they'll say reacts with excess something or other. That's what we're trying to figure out here, is which one is in excess, and then which one then is the limiting reagent, and that's the one that we use. Okay, so if I look at my mole ratio here, I have 2 moles of calcium for every 1 mole of oxygen. So then what I have to do is I have to figure out then, looking at these numbers, which ratio I have more of. It looks like for oxygen, and you can do this in your head, but I'll show you how to do it with the numbers too. So for every mole of oxygen, I need double the calcium. So if I have 4 moles of oxygen, that would react with double that. It should have 8 moles of calcium. But as you can see, I don't have 8 moles of calcium. I just have 6.84. So if I don't have enough, then that means that this is the limiting reagent. And then you don't even worry about the oxygen. Pretend it's not there. So the given will be your calcium. Now, another way you can do that, because sometimes the numbers are hard to see from what they have. Also, they gave us moles, and that's nice. Sometimes in a limiting reagent question, they'll give us grams, and so there's no way you can tell initially which is the limiting reagent. You first always have to convert to moles. Anyway, let me show you how to do it. So let's try, let's just see if calcium is a limiting reagent. So is calcium the limiting reagent? So what I do is I write down how many moles I have, so 6.84 moles. If I don't have moles, I'd have to convert the grams into moles, or any liquid or gas information, convert it to moles first. You have to know your moles in order to figure out the limiting reagent. And then you proceed to do this step and see if that works. So I have 6.84 moles, and then I'm going to multiply it by the mole ratio with oxygen. Okay, so the calcium goes on the bottom, 2 moles of calcium on the bottom, and 1 mole of oxygen on the top. Okay, so when you multiply and divide, you're going to get, what will that be, 3.42 moles of oxygen that you need. Okay, so if I use up all of this stuff, I'm going to need this many moles of oxygen. And then I compare with what I have. So if I compare, I've got plenty of moles of oxygen to react all of that calcium. So this, because I have more moles of oxygen, that means this one is the excess reagent. And that means that the calcium must be the limiting reagent. Okay, so now that it's the limiting reagent, I can forget about this. And now I just work, this is my given, and this is my asked. Now I do my normal stoic. I'm in moles already, so I just have to cross the river. Now, with this one, it's a 2 to 2. So I guess I'll do it down here. So I'll say I need to convert moles of calcium to moles of calcium oxide. So I write down how many I have, 6.84 moles of calcium, and I'm multiplying it because I'm just doing this mole ratio step. So 2 moles of calcium react to form 2 moles of calcium oxide. So 2 divided 2 is 1, so it's just going to be the same. So 6.84 moles of calcium oxide, that's what I'll get in the end. Okay? And I'll have used up a whole lot of the oxygen. And that could be another question that you could ask, is you could say, of the excess reagent, how much of the oxygen will you have left? Well, if I use all of the calcium, this is how much oxygen is required. So if I just subtract those two numbers, I'll figure out how much oxygen is left over. All right, so answer, I'm going with that one. All right, hopefully that helps you with that question. We are going to go through this question specifically in our next class, and we'll do lots of examples of it.